You are walking alone at dusk. The light is fading fast. Somewhere behind you, in the tall grass, something is watching. You cannot see it, but it can see you. For most of human history, this wasn't a hypothetical. This was Tuesday. We like to imagine our ancestors as hunters. Spear in hand, fire at their back, apex predators striding across the savanna. But for the first few million years of the human story, that picture is almost backwards. Your ancestors weren't always the hunters. Often, they were the hunted. Think about what that means. No rifles, no fences, no emergency numbers, just a small, slow, mostly hairless primate, walking upright through a landscape full of animals built to kill. So who was actually trying to eat early humans, and how did they survive it? Let's start at a cave in South Africa called Swartkrans. In the 1970s, a paleoanthropologist named C.K. Brain began digging through fossil deposits there, cataloging thousands of bones from early hominins, ancestors, and relatives of ours, going back over 1 million years. Brain noticed something strange on one particular skull, belonging to a species called Paranthropus robustus. Two small, round puncture holes, punched clean through the bone. At first, this looked like nothing special. Bones break, rocks fall. Time is not gentle with a skull buried for 1 million years. But Brain didn't stop there. He compared the spacing of those two holes to the spacing of teeth in predator jaws from the same fossil deposits, and they matched, almost perfectly. The lower canines of an extinct saber-toothed cat called Dinophelus fit into those two punctures like a key into a lock. That skull didn't fall into the cave. It was carried there, in the jaws of a predator that had just killed and eaten its owner. Brain's conclusion reshaped how scientists thought about these caves entirely. Sites like Swartkrans weren't the remains of early human meals. They were the leftovers of somebody else's meal. Predator dens, not campsites. Your distant relatives weren't dragging carcasses home. They were the carcasses. And Dinophelus wasn't alone. Fossil layers across southern and eastern Africa are full of the teeth of leopards, hyenas, and giant extinct cats. Animals with jaws strong enough to crush bone, built specifically to hunt primates in exactly the size range of early hominins. Small, upright, slow-moving, and almost defenseless. If you were designing a target species for a big cat, you'd struggle to do better. The danger wasn't only on the ground. It came from above, too. In 1924, at a quarry in Taung, South Africa, workers uncovered the skull of a young hominin, roughly 3 years old, that came to be known as the Taung Child. For decades, scientists debated exactly what killed it. Then, in 2006, researcher Lee Berger re-examined the skull and noticed something the earlier studies had missed. Puncture marks in the eye sockets. Marks that matched, almost exactly, the talon damage modern eagles leave on monkey skulls after killing and eating them. An eagle. A bird large enough and strong enough to snatch a 3-year-old child off the ground and carry it into the air. Picture that for a moment. Not a lion in the grass. Not a shadow at the edge of camp. Death arriving from directly above, silent, on wings, before there was any time to react at all. This is the world researchers Donna Hart and Robert Sussman describe in their work on early human predation, which they summarized under a simple, blunt title, Man the Hunted. Their argument runs against almost everything popular culture assumes about our ancestors. We picture cavemen as fearless, spear-wielding conquerors of the food chain. Hart and Sussman's research suggests the opposite. For the vast majority of the human evolutionary timeline, we were prey, not occasionally, constantly, structurally, baked into every decision our ancestors made, all day, every day. So let's reconstruct a day, using what the evidence tells us. You wake up at first light, not because you chose to, but because darkness was when the cats hunted, and staying still in the open after dusk was a decision that could kill you. You move in a group, not because you enjoy company, necessarily, but because a group has more eyes, more ears, and more warning time than a lone body walking through grass. You avoid dense brush near water sources, because that's exactly where a leopard waits for something thirsty to arrive. You glance upward, out of habit, more than you'd ever admit, because something learned that lesson a long, long time before you were born. Every one of those behaviors sounds like common sense today, but common sense like that isn't free. It's built. Generation after generation, the individuals who didn't do these things simply didn't survive long enough to pass anything on. The ones who did became your ancestors. Their caution is quite literally written into you. Here's the counterintuitive twist. We tend to think tools and weapons made early humans dangerous, but the timeline doesn't support that as the main story. Sharpened stone tools show up roughly 3.3 million years ago. serious hunting weapons, and clear evidence of humans regularly killing large predators rather than the reverse appear far later still. For an enormous stretch of time in between, our ancestors weren't winning fights against big cats, they were avoiding them entirely. And avoidance, it turns out, is a far more powerful survival strategy than most people give it credit for. Group living, constant vigilance, complex communication to warn each other fast, fire, once it was tamed, used as much to keep predators at bay through the night as to cook a meal. None of these were bonus features layered on top of an already successful species. Researchers like Hart and Sussman argue these were the actual engine. Predation pressure may have been one of the central forces that pushed hominins toward bigger social groups, sharper alarm calls, and eventually, language itself. The very things that make us human may have started as defense mechanisms against being eaten. Now think about your own life for a second. You still flinch at a sudden shadow. You still feel your pulse spike walking alone down a dark street. You still feel safer in a group than by yourself at night, even when, statistically, in your actual modern life, almost nothing out there is hunting you. That unease isn't irrational. It isn't a flaw in your wiring. It's an inheritance, a message encoded in your nervous system by ancestors who survived Dinofelis, survived the eagles of Taung, survived leopards waiting at the waterhole, and passed that caution down, body to body, for millions of years, until it reached you. You are walking alone at dusk. The light is fading fast. And somewhere deep inside you, a part of your brain that is far, far older than civilization is still glancing at the tall grass, still checking the sky, still keeping the watch that once, a very long time ago, kept your ancestors alive.